Hey yo, what's good though? Soul here, and welcome back to my story mode. So I feel the need to apologize once again because I feel like I've lied to you guys once again. In my previous video, I was saying stuff like getting back into a rhythm and starting up a bunch of new series and stuff like that, and while all of those projects are still definitely going to happen, I have not found a rhythm. So yeah, I'm still here, I'm still very much alive, but I have not found a rhythm, and I've been kind of just laying off Pokemon content, because frankly, I just haven't been feeling it lately. For the most part, you guys know how my content works by this point. I'm pretty transparent with you guys, and if there's one thing that I feel like I can be honest about, and that I'm sure a lot of you agree with, it's the fact that I'm just simply not in a Pokemon mood. Pokemon Home is a nice addition to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, but A, it's already late, and B, it doesn't really add anything to the gameplay itself. All it does is just guarantee that my Pokemon will be safe somewhere. Other than that, we've heard no news, no details, and no updates regarding the DLC that's supposedly coming out later this year. Now, this is far from an uncommon occurrence. Pretty often, especially within the last couple of years, Pokemon will go into this radio silence where we hear absolutely nothing about any games or anything like that. And hell, I'm not even saying this is a Pokemon specific problem. This happens with all games, all series. Everything under the sun is going to eventually have to go into a radio silence while the team is working on said project. However, the specific problem with Pokemon is that they gave us absolutely nothing. Zilch. Nada. That last Pokemon Presents that we had back in February pretty much says everything that you need to know about what's happening this year. We've got absolutely nothing to look forward to, especially if you're not into the mobile games, which personally, I am not. Like I've said a million times over, guys, I totally get it. The mobile market is a gold mine. But there are just so many potential games that you guys could be creating that actually have some love and care put into them. Pokemon Unite is good and dandy and all, but I can only play something so mindless for so long before I need some real meat, you know what I'm saying? Thankfully though, I am not a one-trick pony, and I like to play a lot of games outside of the Pokemon franchise. Thanks, Shanks. Soul, what in the world are you talking about? You've been gone for the better part of a month, and I've seen the thumbnail of the video that you just uploaded right now. What in the world are you leading into? Well, it's really no mystery if you've seen the title and you've seen the thumbnail. Yeah, we're talking about Tears of the Kingdom today. Whoa, hold your horses, don't click away just yet. I know, this is not a Nintendo or, Zelda related channel like that. However, there is something I feel needs to be talked about here. Now, I have to imagine that at least like 50 to 60, maybe even 70% of us that have been keeping up with the Pokemon franchise are Switch owners. And I don't think that it's very far-fetched to imagine a world in which at least 90% of Switch owners picked up the first big game to release on the Nintendo Switch, aka Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Ergo, it's also hard to imagine that anybody who played Breath of the Wild wasn't interested in picking up its long-awaited sequel, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Now, I'm sure it sounds like I'm pulling a lot of this right out of my ass, and honestly, you'd be fair to guess that because I kind of am. I'm not one to do calculations on this kind of thing. I'm just making an educated guess. However, this is yet another game that the world really had its eyes on, a very keen eye at that one. I, of course, was one of those very people. I mean, frankly, all you gotta do is take a look at my upload schedule lately and you could probably put two and two together. I have not been here. Tears of the Kingdom was absolutely a prime culprit in that case. Not the only culprit, but a prime one. Now obviously, that's put me in a mood. A Zelda mood. I want to play Zelda. I want to talk about Zelda. I want Zelda right now. And this channel doesn't really allow me to do that under normal circumstances. However, considering the fact that this video even exists right now, it's very obvious that I found a loophole. A way to talk about Zelda and complain about Pokemon? It's like the perfect Soul Story Mode gift basket. Two very highly anticipated open world games that sold extremely well for both of their respective series that released on the same console, not even a full year apart from one another? Yeah, I think it's about time for a comparison video. I feel like there's two very specific things that I should note for you guys before we start getting into this. One, if you have not played any Zelda games, you're not really interested in the Zelda franchise like that, no need to worry, you do not need any knowledge on the Zelda franchise to listen in on this video. 2, for anybody that is into the Zelda franchise and they're currently playing Tears of the Kingdom, no need to worry, I will not be covering any huge spoilers for the game. I'll only be using early game content. Any gameplay that I utilize and anything that I refer to in this video is easily accessible within the first like 3-4 hours of the game. Also, this probably isn't going to be like an insanely in-depth comparison video or anything like that. I'm probably just going to be covering base level stuff because, you know, I gotta get this video out kind of soon. It's been a long time since I've uploaded. However, for anybody that is interested in a highly long, in-depth discussion or review or anything like that regarding Tears of the Kingdom, I might be able to hook something up for you. Let me know if you guys are interested in something like that. Now, I'm sure that there's plenty of you still wondering, why in the world would this guy go out of his way to compare something like Zelda to Pokemon? Two completely different genres, completely built by different companies, it's not even in the same realm. In a way, you're kind of right, they aren't really in the same realm in terms of what the games themselves are at their core. However, generally speaking, it's kind of wrong to say that they're not in the same realm. These are both AAA titles that sell absolute demonic numbers exclusively for Nintendo. If I'm expected to pay full price for any of these games, I think that it's more than fair to make any kind of comparisons that I want. Especially if I do or don't believe that I'm getting my money's worth. So if anything, in my personal perspective, I think that it's criminal not to make the comparison. However though, I'm not gonna sit here and claim that this was a completely original thought process. Now I'm gonna go ahead and put this image up on the screen that I found a couple of weeks ago. It was making circulations on my timeline for quite some time and causing a lot of different discussions about Tears of the Kingdom and the Pokemon franchise. If it wasn't obvious, this is just a blatant case of quantity versus quality. Yeah, sure, Pokemon is pumping out content every year, dropping something huge at the end of every year, sure enough. But that 6-year wait for Tears of the Kingdom? This wait made for one of the highest quality games I have ever played. Period. And I'm not even talking about the visuals right now, which in the case of Tears of the Kingdom is absolutely stunning, by the way. No, I'm talking about the love, the care, and the effort that they put into this game within those 6 years. Why don't we make some more direct comparisons so you have an idea of what I'm talking about? Hey, you know what? The visuals are actually good a place to start as any. Now granted, this game was already bound to look good considering the fact that it's a direct sequel to its predecessor that utilized a lot of the same assets. But two things. One, Breath of the Wild looks better than any Pokemon game without question, no doubt about it already. And two, even though they didn't really need to, they still went out of their way to improve on the visuals for Tears of the Kingdom. Grass, trees, rocks, buildings, anything in the distance, lighting, it's all thoroughly improved. And all you have to do is look at the two side by side and it's fairly obvious. Naturally, because Breath of the Wild was made with the intent of being played on the Wii U, it was originally developed for the Wii U. However, they still went out of their way to optimize that for the Switch. The sequel being entirely Switch exclusive, they went out of their way to make sure that it was fully optimized to look as good as it could on the Nintendo Switch specifically. Again, this is something they didn't need to do, but they still went out of their way to do it. And do I really need to go back and talk about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet again? Grass and trees look awful, everything looks inconsistent, lighting, don't even get me started, Poppin', god awful. While we could talk about that night and day alone, we've already talked about it night and day. And speaking of optimization, why don't we talk about world and map access for a quick second here? I could go across the entirety of the Tears of the Kingdom map with little to no frame drops and little to no load times. And that's by utilizing mechanics that, frankly, should not even be working on a Nintendo Switch of all things. If I really wanted to, I could make a 70-foot mecha tank and traverse across the entire world with ease. I really don't think that anybody can emphasize enough just how much effort they put into optimization so that this game could run as smoothly as possible, even though it shouldn't be possible. I've made one game in my entire life as a school project. Just getting the mechanics to actually work and function the way that you want them to is absolutely agonizing. So not only is it an absolute miracle that they even got a lot of these mechanics to actually work, but they got them to function the way that they wanted to, and with no glitches or issues? It's incredible. And then, of course, there's the other side of the spectrum. Pokemon, in which there are areas that are guaranteed to drop frames. Any forest, any city with more than 3 NPCs, your frames are done. Now I get it, while the Switch is a very impressive console in of itself, it's not a very strong console, especially in comparison to its predecessors. But that's the thing about optimization, it's working with what you've got. Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Odyssey, Astral Chain, any of these other games that run perfectly fine on Nintendo Switch, but Pokemon just can't seem to do it this time. Tears of the Kingdom pushes the Nintendo Switch to its absolute limits, but the thing about its optimization is that it doesn't show that. Still not a tech whiz, still not a game designer, but I can absolutely recognize when a game console is being absolutely pushed to the edge. But that's what's so grand about it. It uses so much power, but it also tries to stabilize it the best it can, and it makes it such a just mesmerizing experience. Now, while I could talk about that day and night, there's another thing that's equally as big in the department of development that I really feel like should have been acknowledged more when it came to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. You see, the thing about Tears of the Kingdom is that it's very good at its world building. Now, I'm not saying that Breath of the Wild didn't do a good job. As a matter of fact, the absolute opposite. It did a phenomenal job. However, the thing about Tears of the Kingdom is that it built upon that and made things even more interesting. A lot of the NPCs that are currently present in Tears of the Kingdom have lived whole-ass lives in between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. You go to familiar towns, you see that kids have grown up and they're doing their own thing, they're playing tag. If it's raining, all of the NPCs are going inside and they're, taking care of their crops and stuff like that in Hateno Town and stuff like that. Tears of the Kingdom is, without question, the most alive a world in a video game has ever felt to me. Not sure which one specifically, but in one of my videos from my post-era review for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, I mentioned how Scarlet and Violet is sorely lacking in side quest content. Now, on a surface level, the casual person might think, well, who cares? There's already plenty of content in a Pokemon game with finishing up the Pokédex and stuff like that. Why in the world do I need more side quests? And you know what? That's a perfectly valid response because I can't tell you if you're getting your money's worth. That is completely up for you to decide when you play the game. However though, it's pretty hard to argue that side quests don't help world building. Tears of the Kingdom proves this over and over and over again. If you actually do go out of your way to do these side quests, you learn so much about these characters and so much about the world of Hyrule and how it's been these last couple years. You get just a little more involved in these characters' lives and they recognize you as the hero, so they're very appreciative when you actually go out of your way to help them. And in turn, word starts to get around. For example, every time you go to a stable, you could talk to one of the NPCs in the back that appears to be reading some sort of a newspaper, but it's a newspaper that's always updated with the current events of the world. It's updated every single time you do something major in Hyrule. There is a huge side quest in-game in which one of the towns has been taken over by a gang of pirates. If you go to that town and clear out the pirates, some of the people that had to move away from that town because it was so dangerous actually come back. And then once you start rebuilding the town, you're actually rewarded for it. And it's so nice to see stuff like that, because now you've helped all of these people get back to their homes, get back to their actual lives. And even though Link is this predetermined character with his own personal unique history, I feel good about actually going out of my way to help all of these different characters. And in turn, the history of that world has been built upon just a little bit more because of the actions that you took, and it's acknowledged. And then, of course, we go right back to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, where most of the NPCs are just talking amongst themselves about absolutely nothing, and you can't even interact with about 70% of the ones that are just wandering in the city. Talking to them really doesn't make much of a difference because nothing that you do really matters to them. Nothing that you do affects the world in any way, shape, or form. So in turn, I'm not inclined to visit any of these big cities or towns that they've built. I'm not inclined to interact with 90% of the NPCs because I know that they don't have anything important to talk to me about. And even now, in this open world version of Pokemon, there are no side quests. So in turn, why in the hell would I ever bother on focusing on anything other than finishing the Pokédex and completing the main story? Okay, so you get it now, right? We've spent the better part of like 10 minutes just complaining about Pokemon yet again, but that's just kind of what we do around here, so whatever. It's not like you guys aren't used to it. The point is, seeing that picture circulate on Twitter again really proved to me that they don't care about the quality, and that timeline right there says everything. I would love to imagine one day that we could actually get access to a Pokemon game in which all of our actions matter. A game in which side quests actually make us feel good because we're actually helping people and getting rewarded in return and learning more about the world overall. Maybe a time where crunch isn't so crucial that they could actually take that extra year or 3 or 4 or 5, I don't care how long it takes, to actually build a game that works. A game where the dialogue options and the actions that you take actually affect things. A timeline where Game Freak, an actually really good development company, actually gets to make what they plan to make in a good amount of time. But no, because constantly I'm reminded that we live in a timeline in which deadlines are the be-all end-all. A couple days after the release of Tears of the Kingdom, we heard that the game was actually done for the better part of a year. However, they took 1 extra year just to polish up the game. Do you hear what I'm saying here? That delay only happened because they wanted to make sure to give us a prime time experience for the $70 that we were shelling out for this game. And you know what? They absolutely delivered. I don't regret a single penny that I spent for Tears of the Kingdom. That game's existence proves that they are not carried solely by the console. They put in hard work, time, and effort to make that game truly everything that they felt we deserved in a Legend of Zelda game. They wanted to make sure that they lived up to the name, and damn it, they did it. So I guess that I'm just a little pained in the heart right now to have to be constantly reminded that Pokemon Company doesn't care. They simply don't, because if they did, we wouldn't be looking at a game that looks like this during this generation of gaming. But we are. We're still paying full price for it because that's what they feel we deserve. But alright, if you guys say so. Whew. So yeah, I'm sure you could tell that I was a little upset during that one, but you know, I'm really glad that I talked about it freely like this, because I actually didn't really script for this one all that much. I started to, but then I'm like, no, I just need to hit the main points here. I think you guys will get it, because honestly, Tears of the Kingdom says everything it needs to say, and Pokemon, in the same vein, but on the opposite spectrum, also says everything that it needs to say. So that's just how I took it. But honestly, I'm really glad that I did what I did with this one, and you know, I'm super sorry for, you know, taking as long as I did with uploading anything. We'll see what I come out with after this video. I got some work to do, I got some scripts to figure out, so we'll play things by ear. But hopefully I'll be seeing you guys real soon. But with that, it do be skedaddle o'clock. I'd like to thank you guys ever so much for watching. I truly do hope you enjoyed. Do me the greatest favor of dropping a like and a comment, and consider subscribing for more content just like this one here. And with that, I'm Gonzo. Thanks again, hope you enjoyed. I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Do me the greatest favor of taking good ass care, and I'll see you all next time.